He's a name synonymous with luxury, a symbol of the American dream woven into fabric. But the man behind the iconic polo player on a horse wasn't born into wealth or high society. In fact, he wasn't even born Ralph Lauren. This is the story of how a kid from the Bronx, born Ralph Lifshitz, the son of Jewish immigrants, didn't just sell clothes, he sold a fantasy, and in doing so, became an American legend. How did a boy with no formal design training build a global empire that defined what it means to be stylish in America? The answer is more shocking and inspiring than you could ever imagine. It's a tale of ambition, rejection, and a single, audacious bet that changed fashion forever. Growing up in the 1940s and 50s, the Bronx was a world away from the country clubs and Ivy League campuses that would later inspire his brand. Young Ralph found his escape not in books, but in movies. He was mesmerized by the silver screen, watching icons like Cary Grant and Fred Astaire. They weren't just actors, they were portraits of a life he craved, a life of effortless elegance, confidence, and adventure. He started to understand that clothing wasn't just about covering your body. It was a script for the life you wanted to live. While his classmates were playing Svelbar, Ralph was working after-school jobs to buy sharp suits, trying to embody the characters he saw on screen. He was already designing his life long before he ever designed a piece of clothing. At 16, he made a pivotal decision. He and his brother Jerry changed their last name from Lifshitz to Lauren. It wasn't about denying his heritage, but about creating a name that he felt matched the persona he was building, a name that sounded less like the old world, and more like the new one he wanted to conquer. After a brief stint in the army and studying business, he dropped out of college. His dream wasn't in a classroom. It was out there, in the real world. He took a job that seemed worlds away from high fashion, a tie salesman for a company called Beau Brummel. This is where the story takes its first dramatic turn. Working with ties every day, Ralph noticed something. They were all the same, skinny, drab, and boring. They were functional, but they had no soul. He remembered the dashing, wide ties worn by classic Hollywood stars. He saw a gap in the market, a yearning for something bolder, more expressive. So, in a tiny drawer in a shared office in the Empire State Building, he started designing his own ties. They were wider, crafted from luxurious silks and rich fabrics, completely bucking the trend. He called his line Polo. The name was aspirational, evoking a world of sport, leisure, and old money elegance. A world he wasn't a part of, but one he knew others dreamed of, just like him. He took his collection to the major department stores. He went to Bloomingdale's, the titan of New York retail. The buyers were impressed, but they had one condition. They would only sell the ties if he made them narrower and took his own name off the label, replacing it with their store brand. This was his moment of truth. He was a young man with a family to support, and this was a huge opportunity. A guaranteed order from Bloomingdale's could launch his career. Most people would have said yes in a heartbeat, but Ralph Lauren was not most people. He said no. He walked away from the deal, betting everything on his own vision. It was an incredibly risky move. He had no safety net, no rich uncle, just an unwavering belief that people wanted the dream he was selling. His gamble paid off. 6 months later, with Ralph's ties gaining buzz in smaller boutiques, a humbled Bloomingdale's called him back. This time, they agreed to his terms. They not only sold his wide ties under the Polo name, but they also gave him his own in-store boutique, the first ever for a designer at the store. The ties flew off the shelves. Men who had never thought twice about their neckwear were suddenly paying a premium for a piece of the Lauren fantasy. he had proven that style was about storytelling. The tie wasn't just a tie. It was a ticket to a more sophisticated life. But this was only the beginning. Ralph's ambition went far beyond neckwear. He dreamed bigger. He wanted to dress his man from head to toe. In 1968, he launched his first full menswear collection. But it wasn't just about shirts and pants. It was about creating a complete world. While other designers focused on fleeting trends, Ralph focused on timeless archetypes: the rugged outdoorsman, the Ivy League scholar, the debonair gentleman. He created a narrative. You weren't just buying a jacket, you were buying into the fantasy of being a rugged explorer on a safari or a preppy student at an elite university. His genius was in creating a lifestyle brand before the term even existed. He understood a fundamental human desire. We don't just want to look good, we want to belong to a story greater than our own. Then, in 1971, he did something revolutionary. He introduced a women's line. And at the heart of it was a simple, tailored shirt, featuring for the first time the iconic polo player emblem. The next year, he released that same emblem on a peak cotton shirt in 24 vibrant colors for men. The polo shirt was born. It was more than a shirt. It was a status symbol, a piece of accessible luxury. Suddenly, anyone could own a piece of the Ralph Lauren dream. It democratized aspiration. Whether you were a CEO or a college kid, you could wear that little polo player and feel connected to a world of prestige and classic American style. The brand exploded, but as his empire grew, so did the whispers. The fashion elite often dismissed him. They called him a merchandiser, not a designer, a copycat, not a creator. They claimed he didn't invent anything new. He just repackaged old ideas: WASP culture, English aristocracy, Hollywood glamour, and in a way, they were right. Ralph Lauren rarely sketched. He didn't drape fabric on a model. His process was more like a film director's. He would find a vintage piece, a weathered leather jacket, a perfectly faded pair of jeans, and say to his team, make this, but make it ours, make it better, tell its story. He was a master curator, a storyteller who used clothing as his medium. He wasn't inventing the wheel. He was perfecting it and selling the romance of the journey. His vision came to life in his ad campaigns, which were unlike anything else at the time. They weren't just photos of models wearing clothes. They were cinematic stills from a movie that didn't exist. Sprawling, multi-page spreads showed beautiful families in idyllic settings: a ranch in Colorado, a beach house in the Hamptons, a sophisticated city apartment. They weren't selling clothes. They were selling a perfect, beautiful life. A life you could have if you just bought the right sweater. The ads created an entire universe, the world of Ralph Lauren, and it was intoxicating. People didn't just want the clothes. They wanted to live in those pictures. But here is where the story pivots into its most surprising chapter. The core secret to Ralph Lauren's empire isn't just about selling a dream of American aristocracy. It's about who he was selling it to and why. Think about it. His brand is the epitome of what we call old money style. It's the look of people who inherited their wealth, who belonged to exclusive clubs, who grew up in a world of privilege, but who were the first people to eagerly buy into this fantasy. It wasn't the old money crowd. They already had the lifestyle. They didn't need to buy the costume. The shocking truth is that Ralph Lauren's genius was in selling the dream of the American elite to everyone else. To the outsiders, to the stressed, to immigrants and their children who, just like him, looked at that world of privilege from the outside, longing to belong. He took the uniform of the establishment, the polo shirts, the tweed jackets, the crests, and he democratized it. He sold it to the very people that the real country clubs would never let in. He was Ralph Lifshitz from the Bronx, creating the wardrobe for a club he himself wasn't born into, and then selling it to millions of others who shared that same sense of yearning. His greatest success isn't just a business triumph, it's a profound act of cultural subversion. He took the symbols of an exclusive class and made them inclusive. He created a new kind of American aristocracy, one not based on bloodlines or inherited wealth, but on taste, ambition, and the willingness to dream. The man who sold the ultimate insider fantasy was, in fact, the ultimate outsider. And in doing so, he didn't just build a fashion empire. He redefined the American dream itself, proving that it's not about where you come from, but about the world you have the courage to create. Thank you for watching. If you were inspired by this story of vision and perseverance, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more stories about the icons who shaped our world. Let us know in the comments which visionary you want to see next.